My 32 female husband, 35 male, accuses me of baby trapping him with a planned baby. My husband and I have been married for 7 years. Honestly, it felt like a fairy tale when we first got together. He lived next door and we just clicked right away. One thing I have always believed made our marriage so strong was the friendship we shared and the trust we had in each other. But now, it seems like my husband does not feel the same way anymore. Recently, my husband found out that his friend Jeff was baby trapped. Basically, Jeff's wife stopped taking the pill and got pregnant a few months into their relationship. She only admitted it after they got married. Jeff comes from a very conservative family, which his wife was well aware of, so he felt pressured to marry her because of the pregnancy. Now, he feels like he has to stay in the marriage because of the vow he made and the responsibility he has toward his child, even though the dynamic between them is clearly a mess. For some reason, this whole situation has really shaken my husband. I am currently 4 months pregnant with our first child, and yesterday he asked me if I was trying to baby trap him. Honestly, I laughed because I thought he was joking, but he was completely serious and even doubled down on the question. I told him we have been married for 7 years, and having a baby was not going to trap him any more than he already is. My husband did not take that well. He said there was no time limit on baby trapping and accused me of having impure intentions because I acted like his concerns were a joke. He claimed that he trusted me before, but my reaction had made him lose all trust in me. I was stunned. I had no idea what he wanted me to say, or how I was supposed to respond. I told him we should sleep on it and talk about it in the morning. This morning, I woke up to find my husband gone. Instead of a note or a message from him, I got a nasty text from his brother, accusing me of forcing my husband into this pregnancy. That accusation hurt deeply, especially because having this baby was something we both decided on together. My husband has not responded to any of my calls or texts, and now I am left wondering how to move forward. As the shock started to wear off, I realized I was not angry enough. At first, I was too confused and hurt to even process what was happening. But as I reflected on it more, I began to feel the anger I should have felt all along. My husband insulted me and our marriage in such a cruel and unfair way. It just took some time for everything to sink in. In the meantime, I called my best friend, who has always been a rock in my life. She came over with chocolate and was furious when she heard what had happened. After letting me vent and get everything off my chest, she called her husband to come over. He is a family lawyer, and when he arrived, he said he would be more than happy to represent me if I decided to go through with the divorce. This man is an absolute saint and is ready to start drawing up the papers on Monday. Not long after my best friend's husband arrived, my mother-in-law showed up with my husband. She practically dragged him to the door. Apparently, he had gone to her house late last night, saying he was convinced I was using the baby to trap him. Thankfully, my mother-in-law is a reasonable woman. She tore him into shreds for his ridiculous behavior before bringing him here to apologize. My husband looked like a complete worn. He could not even look me in the eye. He mumbled an apology, saying he was scared about becoming a dad and had projected his fears onto me. He admitted that he was unsure if he was ready for that level of commitment, but said he would step up, as if he was some kind of hero. I told him he was a coward and that he should stay with his parents until I was ready to talk to him again. I did not say anything about the divorce papers because I was not sure how he would react, but he will find out soon enough. I also showed my mother-in-law the nasty text I got from my brother-in-law. Her face darkened like a storm cloud when she saw it. I do not know what she will do about that, but I am sure it will not end well for him. For now, I am absolutely exhausted. All I want to do is curl up and cry. My bestie has promised to stay with me tonight, and we are going to watch silly movies to take my mind off things. I have also made an appointment with a therapist for next week because I know I need professional help to process all of this. Right now, though, I just need to rest. I am just devastated that my marriage has fallen apart so suddenly and in such an awful way. Update 1. Honestly, things have settled a little bit now. I did receive some good news, though. I had a scan with my doctor, and my mother-in-law came along to support me. The baby is happy and healthy, and I finally found out the gender. I am having a little girl, and I am over the moon. My mother-in-law was absolutely thrilled to be included in the scan, and she was so touched that I thought to bring her. She is beyond excited to be a grandmother. A few days after the scan, my mother-in-law organized a family lunch. I will admit, I was hesitant to go, but I knew her heart was in the right place. She would not have arranged it if she thought it would make things worse. When I arrived, my husband and brother-in-law were already there, along with my father-in-law and mother-in-law. It was awkward, to say the least, until my mother-in-law asked if anyone had something they needed to say. My brother-in-law spoke first. He apologized for sending me that awful text, explaining that he got caught up in the moment and was trying to support his brother. I told him how hurtful his message was, especially since he knew as well as anyone that my husband and I had been trying for nearly a year to have a baby. He hung his head and mumbled something, but honestly, that was the last I heard from him for the rest of the afternoon. Next, my mother-in-law turned her attention to my husband. She gave him a pointed look, but he avoided everyone's eyes. After a long silence, she finally spoke up. She announced that my husband would no longer be welcome to stay in their house. She said she was ashamed of how he had behaved and that she would rather make room for her granddaughter than have someone like him hanging around. My husband was about to say something, but his face lit up when she mentioned the gender. He has always wanted a little girl, and suddenly he was in tears, saying how happy he was to hear the news. Out of nowhere, he started asking if he could touch my belly and if he could come home to paint the nursery. I shut that down right away. I told him he was not welcome back, not after what he had done to me and our marriage. I explained that if I took him back, I would always be worried that he might run away whenever things get tough. I told him I could not have someone by my side who panicked the moment something big happened. He asked if I was saying it was over, and I told him flat out that I had already engaged a lawyer. He looked frantic, but I felt so calm, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Normally, I would be in tears in a situation like that, but it was like I had detached myself from it all. He said it was not fair, that he had shown a little bit of panic, and now I was throwing away our life together and keeping him from his daughter. My father-in-law reminded him that this was the same baby he felt trapped by just 2 weeks ago. My husband said that it had been a mistake and that he was stressed, but my mother-in-law asked him to imagine how I would have felt. She told him to imagine being so vulnerable, giving your body to build a family, and then having the one person you trust accuse you of something so terrible. My husband repeated that it was a mistake and that he had projected his fears onto me. I told him how broken I felt when he left, how all the dreams I had of a beautiful family came crashing down in an instant. He said he wanted those things with me, that he wanted our baby girl, but he let his panic get the better of him. I told him that was not a good enough excuse for what he put me through. I pointed out that he certainly did not look panicked when his mom had to drag him to my door to apologize. He did not have much of an answer other than to say he was ready now and wanted to be there for our daughter. But throughout all of this, in all the times he said he wanted me and the baby, he never once apologized properly. After a very long and exhausting discussion, the lunch finally ended. My mother-in-law stuck to her word about him not being welcome in their house. He asked again if he could come home with me, but I told him no. I reminded him that the house is mine. I bought it before our marriage, and it is going to be a safe space for me. That means he is not welcome. From what I know, he is staying at a hotel now. Finally, on Friday, he was served with the divorce papers at work. My best friend's husband had drafted them earlier, but I wanted to be sure I was ready before going ahead with it. Since then, I have had a few missed calls and voicemail messages from him, all crying and asking if I am really throwing our family away. He even sent a crying selfie from his car, which my best friend and I could not help but laugh at a little. My mother-in-law called me after she found out and told me I was making the right decision. She said she never wanted things to end this way, but she is here for me and the baby. She told me that we will always be family and even tried to apologize on my husband's behalf, but I told her it was not necessary. At the end of the day, his actions are his responsibility. My best friend has been staying with me throughout the weekend, and we even went baby clothes shopping for a little bit of joy amidst everything. She has been my rock through all of this, and her husband has been such a huge help. I do not know what will happen next, but for now I feel much calmer and more confident that I am making the right choice.